Hello guys, today we will be talking about what if Naruto was a Saiyan and neglected part 4. If you enjoy this video please like and subscribe. Now let's begin. 5 years later, unknown island, a black blur was currently zipping around, causing several rock textures to explode on contact and be reduced to rubble as the blur made contact with them and vanished from plain sight. Several more erupted on contact with either a punch or kick before once again they were nothing more than a pile of pebbles. The blur appeared in the air before landing on the ground with a crouch, revealing a spiky black-haired teenager who appeared to be 11 to 12 years old. He seemed to be wearing a black fighter gi with a red sash holding it together. Picture the outfit Gohan wore during the Cell games, along with a pair of black martial arts shoes, similar to the ones Gokita wears. He then stood straight up, revealing the face of none other than Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. For the past 4 years he has spent all of his time training under his masters Goku and Shinron and has changed a lot during his travels. He spent the first year training his physical strength and speed using the turtle shell Goku had him wear for basically every form of physical training he had him do, such as climbing mountains with weights on his arms and legs or with one arm tied behind his back. He also did the same when it came to something like swimming in order to not just increase his strength but his speed as well. During his travels he learned how to perform a lot of labored jobs such as carpenting, farming, and construction work, and would usually travel to small villages and assist them. Naruto also went through survival training where he had to learn about the various plants that he could use for healing as well as ones that could be eaten and are poisonous, as well as use the landscape to build shelters like a homemade teepee or a small cabin. Training in the wild did give him a more perspective for nature and wildlife, and sleeping out at night and eating food you catch yourself shows you're capable of surviving alone in the forest. It also helped train his senses and raised his awareness around him in case missing nin or bandits attempted to attack him. Not only that, but he also learned some intermediate Fuinjutsu from a monk that live in the mountain range of Yamanokuni, and needless to say the young Saiyan was a natural and was able to understand the basics of modern sealing complexes that most beginner couldn't understand and would take a few years to learn. So far, he knew how to use seals and scrolls to store supplies, money, clothes, tools, etc. The second year Goku got Naruto started in learning how to control his ki, or chi, which was in a manner the same as chakra, since it was naturally the life force, which is a tangible energy that lives inside a living being and its major focus being in the center of the body. By drawing it out, a person is able to manipulate it and use it for performances outside the body, as well as increase their speed, strength, endurance, and can increase the power of their attacks to inflict greater damage to opponents. Goku first taught Naruto how to draw out his ki, and when he was able to do that, he proceeded to help him in learning how to summon it in its raw form by having him focus in summoning it into his palms. This exercise took around 3 weeks to perform before he was able to create a ball of ki, which left Naruto surprised and awestruck at how beautiful it looked. Once he managed to do that, Goku first taught him the basic attack for this technique called the Ki Blast, and with that, Naruto spent his time learning how to manipulate and shape the blast into different forms and managed to form it into either a thin beam of energy that can easily pierce through solid rock or steel to one that can leave a crater in the ground, as well as form it into a thin disc that can cut down countless trees in a single line. The only issue was the amount of energy he put in them, so he spent his time in working how to not waste so much and control it effectively. After that, Goku decided to teach him a few ki-based techniques that were really powerful if used correctly, the ones that he learned or seen his friends use. He started off by teaching him his family's traditional technique, the Kamehameha Wave, Turtle Destruction Wave, which happened to be the first technique he learned from Master Roshi when he started his training. Goku instructed Naruto in how the energy attack was basically a straightforward attack that could do serious damage, ranging from destroying a small mountain and causing tidal waves to wiping out a large city and destroying an entire planet or even a solar system. So with that, Naruto learned the Kamehameha and even created different variations of it, like ones he could use as a barrage attack or manipulate it like a heat-seeking missile. Surprisingly, Naruto managed to get the technique down in nearly half a year before Goku taught him the other key techniques, but only after he was able to use them properly and master them to an extent, and even then, Naruto still continued to hone his skills even after mastering whichever technique Goku taught him. Shinran on the other hand taught Naruto an ancient style of fighting called elemental bending, which was the bending of the five elements that were based off of a certain fighting style, basically its bending form the Avatar cartoon, that evoke the feel of flowing water. Water bending's strength is its great versatility. Rather than supporting a separate set of offensive methods, water bending employs defensive techniques that can be transformed into attacks and counters, defense into offense. Instead of simply deflecting an attack, water bending's defensive maneuvers focus on control, achieved through turning an opponent's own strength against him, rather than directly harming the combined with a certain element like water bending for example. Water bending is based on a style of Tai Chi Chuan, specifically the Yang style. It is a Chinese martial art that features slow movements and elegant forms opponent. The other was earthbending. Earthbending is generally based on the Hung Gar style of Kung Fu, which features heavily rooted stances and strong kicks and punches that evoke the mass and power of earth. The martial art is based on the movements of animals, including the tiger, which is utilized when initiating hard blows, and the crane, which is used to land gently back on the earth. Another version which is more versatile is one based off the southern praying mantis Kung Fu, using its precise stepping to maintain contact with the ground as well as sensing the different vibration through the ground and reading a person's emotion without using your eyesight. Another one was fire bending. Fire bending moves are based mainly on the style of northern Shaolin Kung Fu, but with a few techniques from northern seven-star praying mantis. These martial arts feature quick, successive attacks that exert extreme power for just a moment, much like an explosion, called Jinglik. It optimizes a strong continuous offense, sacrificing defense for greater power, the principle behind a preemptive strike, making firebending the most aggressive of the five. Airbending is based on the Bagua style of martial arts, also known as circle walking or a trigram palm, along with a small hint of Xingyi, also known as mind-heart boxing. These martial arts feature swift, evasive maneuvers that evoke the intangibility and explosive power of wind, drawing energy from the center of the abdomen. Bagua, which utilizes circle walking, the idea behind it being the act of walking the 8 trigrams, is known for its constant circular movement, which makes it difficult for opponents to attack directly or land a blow. Since it's always maneuvering, nobody can get a solid hold on of this maneuver. Maneuvers employ the entire body with smooth coiling and uncoiling movements, utilizing dynamic footwork, open hand techniques, punches and throws. A common tactic is to maneuver behind an opponent and mirror their movements, preventing them from turning to face the practitioner. Unlike other bending disciplines, airbending is almost entirely a defensive art. The final one was lightning bending, which unlike the other elements relied on using the internal strength such as the bioelectricity that emits around a person's body but is invisible to the naked eye. Lightning bending was basically one of the most dangerous forms of bending since it was based off of the Shotokan fighting style, delivering fast and precise blows that relied on the person having fast reflexes. Basically each of these 5 basic disciplines each represent the balance of life, meaning neither one was too strong or too weak. With this, Naruto was intermediate at best, learning the 5 elemental fighting styles. Goku also taught him a very unique technique known as flight, Bukujutsu, in which the user manipulates their ki energy so that they can levitate or fly into the air. Naruto was literally excited in learning how to fly, as he always wondered what it would be like to soar across the air like birds do and see everything below him. Goku had to agree since he too loved to fly. When Naruto first started off, he could only levitate a few feet into the air and slowly learned how to maneuver around objects and increase his speed and slow down. The first few tries proved to be disastrous at first due to the fact that Naruto ended up crashing into several trees face first and then one time the side of a cliff, leaving an imprint of his body which made Goku and Shinran bust out laughing at the incidents, but he did start to improve as he got older. Right now Naruto overall had an excellent build for someone his age, think Teen Gohan from the Cell games. Swaying behind his back was his tail, and Goku also warned him about how a Saiyan's tail was their weak point, as whenever it is grabbed, It weakens the Saiyan greatly, but he helped Naruto overcome that weakness. Naruto also worked on using a bow staff and a katana, as he bought them both from a weapons store near the border of Fire Country, and worked on the katya as the style he learned from Hiruzen and Kushina before the incident. Said Saiyan was observing the damage he did around the area and couldn't help but rub the back of his head sheepishly. "Hey, looks like I overdid it a little," Naruto stated as he saw a rock texture collapse over and hit the ground. Hey, don't fret, Naruto, you've improved a lot over the last 7 years in controlling your power. Good thing this mountain isn't populated," Goku stated as he was extremely proud on how far Naruto has gotten in his training and felt a sense of pride. "Indeed. I didn't expect you to get this strong so soon, young one, but it looks like you've surpassed my expectations," the Eternal Dragon remarked with a sense of pride in his voice. "Thanks, Shinron-sensei," Naruto said as he wiped a bead of sweat from his face. "Though I wonder how Kushina-chan and Mito-chan as well as the other are doing. I really miss them." "I'm pretty sure they are doing just fine, Naruto, after all they're each strong in their own way," Goku assured his apprentice. Naruto merely sighs and nods as he makes his way over to the small hut to gather his things. "I guess you're right, sensei, since Saruoji has things handled." He pulls out a map of the elemental countries and inspects it. "I'll need to restock my supplies at the closest village, and I think I'll make a detour to Kiri next. What do you think, Goku-sensei?" Naruto asked as he got his stuff packed up. "Sounds like a plan, Naruto. Let's get some supplies first at the closest village on the island, and I think you should head to one of the closest elemental countries next," he instructed while his apprentice studied the map. "That would be Kirigakure no Sato." "Alright then, next stop Kiri. Say sensei, can I fly there this time instead of having to swim like I did when I went to Nami no Kuni?" he asked and heard his mentor chuckle. "Sure Naruto, knock yourself out, but don't do it literally, as I still haven't gotten over that time you crashed head first into that mountain, hehehe," Goku said, chuckling while Naruto hung his head in embarrassment before flaring his ki and taking off into the air. After getting the supplies, he was currently soaring over the ocean, passing several islands. "Man, that's weird, I should be close to Kiri right now," he pondered until he noticed a ship sailing across the water. "Maybe they would know if I was close or not." With that he took off towards the ship. "Man, this is so boring." A female Kari Nin groaned while 2 of her comrades had tick marks on their heads. "For the love of Kami, stop whining, damn it," a Jonin yelled, getting tired of the Chunin's constant whining, even though water patrol was the most boring objective, while the other Jonin chuckles. "Relax man, it's not like we're running to anything out here," he remarked until he saw a black dot heading in their direction. "Hey, what is that?" he asked as he squinted his eye, and his teammates did the same until the dot got a little bigger. "It looks like a kid and he's flying towards us." The female Nin's eyes bugged out while her comrades appear right beside her with the same expression. "No way," the Jonin said until Naruto appeared before them, hovering in the air like it was as simple as breathing. "Hey, are you guys from Kirigakure no Sato?" Naruto asked the group, who said nothing but gape at him. "How are you hovering in the air like that?" the other male Kiri Nin asked. Naruto blinked a few times at their reaction and shrugs. "It's a technique my sensei taught me, but anyway, are you guys from Kiri?" Naruto asked again. "Yeah, we are, but why are you going there? Don't you know there's a civil war going on there?" the male Nin asked the young Saiyan. "Really? Wow, I didn't know that, but I'm merely going into the wilderness as I am a traveler," the black-haired Saiyan answered while the ninja looked at him in a skeptic manner but relented. "Fine then, it's 10 miles southwest from here, but like I said, be careful as travelers aren't really welcome there," the leader informed Naruto, who nodded back at the ninja. "Okay, and thanks for the info." Later, he did a 2-finger salute with his hand before flaring up his ki and took off instantly, making the water from under him splash upwards and even creating a gust of wind, leaving the 3 Kiri ninjas stumped. "That was awesome," the female Nin said with stars in her eyes while her 2 comrades merely nodded in agreement. Meanwhile Naruto managed to make it to Water Country and was searching for a good spot where he could train in peace as well as make a temporary home while being close to a village where he could restock his supplies should he run out, and after searching for a while he found a great spot that was near a mountain range and below it was a jungle with a decent clearing and a large river along with a waterfall flowing into the river. Afterwards, he spent the whole week making a decent-sized cabin for himself before setting up the rooms with the furniture he sealed up as well as his tools, clothes, training weights, etc. Right now the young Saiyan walking through a trail he created in the jungle carrying the dead body of a wild boar he caught that was hogtied to a large stick over his shoulder and also was carrying a large sack that contained wild fruits and vegetables as well as medical herbs that grew in the forest. Man, catching this boar with weighted clothes was a lot tougher than I thought, but at least I'm getting a decent workout, he said as he made it to his cabin and drops the boar onto the ground and wipes a bead of sweat from his forehead. Phew, this humidity is no joke. I didn't think it would be this hot and curie, he thought while pulling out a jagged-looking dagger with the edges appearing to be smoothed out but extremely sharp, and proceeded to skin the boar and then cut open the stomach and remove whatever entrails he didn't need and threw them somewhere in the jungle away from his cabin and where scavengers would get them. Afterwards, he hung the skinned body over a pole that is out of the reach of any bears, wolves, and mountain lions while removing the tusks just in case he needed extra tools. For the rest of the day, the cheerful Saiyan was in the jungle, performing acrobatic feats across the trees and in ways most kids his age couldn't even think of doing, but then again he is not like other kids considering who his ancestor is. As he landed onto another tree, he stopped in his tracks and took a whiff in the air. His eyes narrowed as the scent grew stronger. That smell, there's blood in the air and the direction of where the smell is coming from. He lands in the area and his eyes widened at the sight. The area seemed to be charred and on the ground were the bodies of masked ninja who were either in the ground in a puddle of their own blood, with missing limbs, or to his surprise and shock melted, seems to be fresh and also, sniff, sniff. He took off into oh man, there must have been an intense fight here earlier. He pondered and looked around the area only to see a blood trail that went into the jungle. Someone's injured and from the scent she's female. I'd better get to her before she's picked off by the predators in this forest or worse, bandits. With that he took off into the forest. As he leapt through the trees the scent was getting stronger and as he landed on the last tree, out of pure reflex he flips off of it as it was hit by a glob of what appeared to be lava and melted the entire tree. Whoa, that was close, he stated and heard someone huffing. He turned his head to see in his sights was whom he could picture was without a doubt the most beautiful woman he's ever set eyes on. From her appearance she seemed to be around 18 years old. She has ankle-length, auburn hair styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with a dark blue band, and with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs are short, with one covering her right eye, and 2 are long, crossing each other on her chest, just below her chin. Her eyes are light green. She dresses in a long-sleeved dark blue dress that falls just below the knees. It seems to be closed at the front with a zipper, and is kept open on the front right side from the waist down. The dress only covers up to the upper part of her arms and the underside of her breasts. Underneath, she wears a mesh shirt that covers more of her upper body than her dress, but stops short of covering her shoulders and still leaves a sizable cleavage. She also wears shorts in the same color as her and underneath those mesh leggings reaching down over her knees. Around her waist, she wears a belt with a pouch attached to the back on the left. Furthermore, she wears high-heeled sandals and shin guards reaching up over her knees. All in all, she looked like a goddess in Naruto's eyes and he couldn't help but blush a little at her flawless form despite the fact that she had a few tears and dirt on her face. A sided smile formed on the auburn-haired woman's face as she saw the boy stare. "You see something you like?" she teased but then hissed in pain, clutching her bleeding side and was about to collapse over until she was caught in the arms of the black-haired Saiyan. "Whoa, take easy lady, otherwise you're gonna bleed out more than usual," Naruto warned as he carefully helped her up, while looking at the gash on the left side. "You need to get that treated before it gets infected. I have a cabin not far from here, I can treat it for you," he offered but then frowned as he sensed a group of unknown ninja heading here. The next thing May knew, She was scooped up in his arms bridal style and said Womanix in surprise. "Sorry about this but we've got to go." With that, they both vanished in a blur, leaving the Hunter-nin on a cold trail. A day later Materumi, the leader of the rebel faction and person Naruto helped, was looking outside for her savior from yesterday. By the river, a large splash occurred, surprising May as a fish that was the size of a small bear and hit the ground, flapping and flailing around. After that, Naruto leapt out of the river, shirtless and wearing his pants, like Gohan did after the Cell Games. As he landed on the soft ground, he shook his head in order to get the water out of his hair and then did the same for his body until his tail wagged off the remaining bit of water on his person. "Man, these fish are tough to catch," he said to himself, unaware that May was sporting a small blush on her face as she saw his toned body. Never in her life has she seen any kid his age this ripped, as he had the build of a warrior due to the fact that he hardly had any form of baby fat on his person. That was when she noticed his tail and had to resist the urge of screaming kawaii at the sight. That was when Naruto turned his attention to May and his expression brightened. "Hey May-chan, I see you decided to get some fresh air while I was fishing. I guess those herbs did the trick and helped you recover faster," said 18-year-old, snapped out of her stupor and couldn't help but smile at his expression. "Indeed they did, Naruto-kun, and thanks for helping me even though you didn't have to," she replied back and nearly gawked as she saw him hoist the giant fish that was twice his size over his shoulder. "I know, but I couldn't live with myself if I let someone as pretty as you get killed by those Hunter-nin," he replied back in an honest tone, unaware that his words made the tint of pink on her face grow a little and ill. When it came to the opposite sex, Naruto was not as dense around females like his sensei was due to the fact that when he was in Konoha, he basically spent a lot of time around them. Basically, he was innocent when it came to women and would simply compliment them on their beauty as if it was the simplest thing in the world, unaware that it would result in them blushing due to how innocent he looked when he told them. Most males would do it to get into their pants, but Naruto was a different case. Another thing Naruto didn't like were perverts. His Aniki Kakashi was an exception in a way due to the fact that he mostly kept his in check thanks to Rin and the fact that he reads what his mother called smut. Thank you Naruto-kun, she replied in a quiet tone as she brushed one of her bangs back. "Kami, what's wrong with me? He's a preteen for crying out loud, yet here I am acting shy around him. And those innocent eyes aren't helping the fact either." "You're welcome. Well, I'm gonna go get this fish skinned and cleaned for lunch. How do you feel about sushi?" he asked May, who smiled. "That would be great Naruto-kun," she replied back. "Great. I'll get onto it and afterwards I can take you back to your camp." With that he headed to the back of the cabin in order to gut, clean, and cook the fish for lunch. 6 months later. It's been 6 months since Naruto met May and resumed his training in the deep wilderness of Mizuno Kuni. Ever since then, many rumors have spread throughout the country and the shinobi village of an entity within the forests. Many don't know what it was, but how they know is that many in the shinobi village could hear the sounds of trees falling or explosions of something out of the ordinary. Sadly, no one was able to find this person or thing since no one knew what it exactly was, but even then during the Bloodline War, the mysterious deaths of Kiri shinobi that believed in Yagura, the current Mizukage's ideals about the bloodlines being demonic in nature, were always found at the Mizukage Tower's doorsteps, either in a broken and bloody heap, barely alive, or simply dead, depending on the person's condition. The only sign this mysterious entity showed was the slight indentation of feet at the doorstep of the tower, and the only person rumored to have met this being was the rebels' very own female leader, Materumi, who was said to have been saved by this unknown warrior when she was ambushed by the current Mizukage's elite Hunter-nin. Though there was one thing that all the shinobi, whether they were of the rebel forces or the ones that followed the Mizukage, remembered, and it was the sight they saw only 3 months ago during the second assault between the two on the rebels' fortress of Tazuki. It was when the forest was being ravaged by the jutsu and explosive traps being used, that something horrific happened. Flashback: Fortress of Tazuki. Materumi had just snapped the neck of an Anbun that had attempted to attack her blind spot, while her forces were assaulting the fortress. The sound of battle cries, blades clashing, seal tags exploding, and just to being unleashed echoed around the bloody war-torn fortress, and bodies of both rebels and loyalists littered the ground. Smoke also rose around the area as the battle ensured under the full moon. "We have to keep pushing. This fortress is one of Yagura's main strongholds, and if we can claim it, then we'll be one step at getting closer to the village, but at this rate," she pondered as she watched her comrades, the very people that were either bloodline holders, or simply those who were against the war, fought with everything they had. "It's gonna take a miracle for this to succeed. I wish Naruto-kun was here." As soon as those words left her train of thought, a deafening roar echoed across area, making all of those that were fighting stop in their tracks and look around. Mei's eyes widened in fear, thinking that it Yagura who was in his Baiju form to come assist his army in defending the fortress and was gonna call on her forces to retreat, until she looked up and saw a large hulking figure leap over and land in the middle of the battle, causing the earth to shake violently and for dust to rise into the air. When it cleared, everyone's eyes widened in shock, horror, and fear as they set their eyes on what appeared to be a beast whose height rivaled if not surpassed even that of the nine-tailed beasts. It appeared to be a giant monkey-like creature with dark brown fur covering its entire body minus its face, hands, and feet, with large pointed ears, and its long and powerful tail swished around back and forth. It sported a set of wicked-looking canines in its maw, but what mainly freaked them all out was its glowing red eyes. They were basically, in simple terms, primal. More primal than any other animals, and from the way it was growling at the Kiri ninja, it was not happy, and a growl rumbled from the giant tape's throat. Mei stood on a tower speechless beyond words as she stared at the beast. Her look of fear changed to surprise as she recognized the tail, and the image of a grinning Naruto popped up in her mind. "Naruto," she said quietly before said blonde stood straight up and let out a deafening roar that was so powerful that it shook the ground more than he did when he landed into the area and started to beat his chest. "What the hell is that thing?" one of Yagura's ninja cried out. "Who cares, just kill the monster." With that, the ninja on Yagura's side proceeded to throw countless kunai with explosive tags on them at Naruto and exploded on contact, covering his form in smoke. Some smirked triumphantly, thinking that they killed the beast, but when the smoke cleared, Naruto was unharmed and snarling in annoyance, shocking the ninja to the core, as those explosive tags had enough power to level a large building but didn't even singe its fur. Naruto brought his hand up into the air and brought it down hard, crushing the enemy ninja like flies. He roared in triumph before stomping repeatedly on the ground. As this happened, the rebels decided to be smart and get the hell out of the giant tape's way as he attacked the enemy nin with his hands, feet, and tail, as they tried to use both explosives and jutsu that did little to slow him down. Mei watched the one-sided fight go on, pondering on how Naruto became this giant ape. One of her COs appeared next to her, as did Chojuro. "My Kami," was all the man said as he witnessed this slaughter, while Chojuro tried his best not to lose his lunch at the massacre. They then watched as the Saiyan-turned ape reared his head back, opening his maw wide and gathering what appeared to be energy into its mouth. Once he gathered enough, with mighty roar, brought his head forwards and fires an energy blast so potent that it dissolves anything in its path to nothing, while the other ninja watched frozen in horror as the attack descended towards them. When it made contact, an explosion lit up half of the country in a flash of light, causing the place to erupt and generate a shockwave that ripped trees from the ground as well as the earth itself. Mei shielded her eyes from the shining light and the debris, as did Chojuro and Ao. When it cleared, they each saw a crater that was extremely wide and deep, and there was barely nothing left of the fortress or the shinobi guarding it. "There's nothing left in that energy. It wasn't chakra or yukai. It was too potent," a stumped Ao stated as he has seen a Imari, menacing ball, and what damage it could do, but this made it look like child's play. "We better get out of here as well before it spots us," Chojuro suggested as he backed away, only for his heel to tap a rock that fell off the tower they were on and hit the ground. Chojiro's eyes bugged out in fear as he saw it make a clicking sound, as did Ao. "You baka, what have you done?" Ao tried not to scream out. Naruto froze in his tracks and his ears twitched from the sound before turning its head to their direction. Ao and Chojuro paled to the point where they looked like ghosts as the ape growled lowly as his head descended toward the three ninja. Mei did nothing but stare at the form until she stared at Naruto's glowing red eyes. Hakibi on the other hand nods in agreement with B. I agree, we don't know the magnitude of this boy's power, especially if he was able to beat the vessel of the Sanbi so easily. The hybrid theorized. I would advise using version 2 of your cloak form if you want to at least land a decent hit on him. Killer grunted in agreement before exiting his mindscape. Right now he let out a breath of air while lightly patting his stomach for the punch Naruto delivered. I have to say that was a sweet move you did there. No one short form my brother has ever hit me that hard before. He praised before a serious expression formed on his face. Playtime's over Naruto, you're about to get a first-hand experience against the Eight Sword. Yujito gasps when she heard this and now was worried. He's gonna use that against Naruto. What is he thinking? B on the other hand grinned as a reddish-brown-like chakra started to form around his body. Get ready for the fight of your life Gaki because I'm about to release the Eight Sword, he declared. Naruto watched as a chakra cloak erupted around the man who was grinning while 8 chakra tails swayed behind him. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt the chakra levels this man possessed. Whoa, he's even stronger than Yagura is in that form, and if his first version is this strong. He watched as the tails formed around him, turning into a dome of chakra before erupting into a burst of energy, and was now in his version 2 form. The version 2 chakra cloak is much darker than version 1 because in this form, B was more muscular and the chakra was reddish-brown. 2 horns protruded from his head with a black face-like structure, and his eyes glow an eerie white color as did his mouth. Behold the 8 sword of the Hakibi Jinchuriki. Wee! Kairabi roared, releasing a shockwave so powerful that it scattered dust and rocks everywhere. Naruto brought an arm up in order to protect his face from the debris. Incredible, his roar alone is powerful enough to cause this much damage? I might have to use more power than I first thought. Naruto thought as the dust settled. Killer B raised his arms in the air for a few seconds before bringing them down hard. The ground underneath them started to rumble, resulting in a crater spreading outwards. Naruto looks down as he saw the earth under his feet cracks and leaps away as it rose up and exploded, revealing a pair of dark brown-red arms. Kairabi smirks in a creepy fashion as another arm sprouted from the right arm and descends toward him. Naruto lands on the ground and vanished as the extra arms hit the ground before it rises up again and tries to attack him in a repeated process. He then skids back while forming a yellow ball of ki in his right hand as the hand descends towards him. Naruto throws the energy ball at the hand, and when it made contact, a small explosion occurred, destroying the chakra arm. His senses went on high alert and dodged a horizontal slash to his chest and somersaults over Kairabi, who spins around and launches his 8 tails at the Saiyan. He evades several tail swipes and stabs with his impressive agility and reflexes before landing on the ground and leaping backwards several feet, surprising B. Don't think that running away will help you Gaki, he stated before charging at Naruto. Naruto on the other hand smirks. Who said I was running? He said as he turned around and got into an odd stance. He sways his arms around his body while he produces a blue flame-like aura, and then, he draws his hands out to his sides and closes them into fists as he crosses his arms on his chest. Let's see how you handle this Thunder Flash attack. Naruto draws his fists together in front of him and fires a huge storm of flames at the transformed ninja. Yujito's eyes widen when she watches the attack travel through the field, scorching the earth and grass with the heat alone. Killer B skids to a halt with a gobsmacked expression on his face as he saw the attack come upon him and great accuracy. Holy shit, too late to dodge or counter. He screamed before he was engulfed by the attack. The flames shot outwards around the area before dissipating and leaving waves of smoke that rose from the area the Shades-wearing rapper was at. When it cleared, it revealed Kairabi, who sprawled on the ground but with singes on his clothes and some burn marks on places like his arms, legs, etc. before his healing factor started to slowly heal him. Yujito's jaw hung downwards as she saw the damage the technique did not only to her uncle but to the surrounding area. Whoa, what an attack! She whispered in awe while Nibi nodded in her mindscape in agreement. Naruto on the other hand was impressed and watched Killer B slowly get back on his feet while healing and whistled lowly. Wow, this guy is resilient. From what I can tell, his cloak took at least half of the damage from the technique Sensei taught me. If it were the other way, he'd be in serious trouble even with his Baiju healing his body. He summarized, though in reality Naruto actually held back a lot on that technique because he didn't really want to damage the forest that was at the edge of the field. Goku on the other hand was impressed with how Naruto was able to control the Thunder Flash technique he learned from Piccin to such a level, which proved that Naruto's control and his ki has improved a lot since their training in the hyperbolic time chamber. B got up panting slightly from the attack with a smile on his face. Despite how the fight was going, he helped but be thrilled to fight some who could actually make him fight more than he usually did. Hey, the Gaki's awesome. No one short of my brother has ever made me go this far, and that technique was off the chain. Were it not for version 2, I'd be in real pain. I can't believe he made you revert back in your current form with that technique. B, you're gonna need to fully transform if we want to actually get a decent hit on the tailed Gaki, and whatever you do, don't let him hit you with that move, otherwise you'll get roasted. Hakibi warned his vessel and got a mental nod from Killer B, who finally manages to fully heal. Say no more, Edo, because the time for playing is over, yo. He cried out before turning his attention to Naruto, who was blinking in confusion as the man pointed to him with a grin on his face. Your victory I will negate. From his back 8 tentacles slowly sprouted out and enlarged. With my transformation I will eradicate. His body started to shift and ripple before a cloud of smoke formed around. My true transformation will be your plight, as the power of the Hakibi will unleash its might. The smoke erupted outward, and when it cleared, it revealed the true form of the Hakibi no Kyoju, a tailed gained ox. The Baiju had 4 long horns on its head, similar to that of a Jacob sheep. The lower left part of one of its horn was permanently sliced off in a battle with A and his father. It also has a muscular upper body structure, with a hunched back similar to an American bison, arms with spiked protrusions on the elbows, and hands with opposable thumbs like that of a human. It has no hind legs, but instead its lower half is made up of its tails, which consist of 8 tentacles that resemble the cephalopod arms of an octopus. Naruto gaped as he stared at the gargantuan form of the creature before him that snorted steam from its muzzle. It wasn't the size that got to him, it was the unbelievable amount of chakra this force of nature possessed. Kami. His chakra levels are unbelievable. The Sanbi doesn't even compare to this guy. He muttered before a smile filled with excitement and thrill formed on his lips. Hey, this might prove to be a challenge for me, Naruto said as his eyes shined in excitement. Yujiro was on a rock texture and didn't look as thrilled as Naruto did. That baka, Uncle A warned him about transforming into his final form, but B would be the type to ignore his warnings even if he used the Iron Claw on him. She turned her gaze to Naruto, who was standing before the behemoth with a worried expression on his face. Be careful, Naruto-kun, I don't know how strong you really are, but in this form, Sensei is unstoppable. Get ready for the thrashing of a lifetime, Gaki. I'll send you packing and crying for the Shinigami. Wee. He bellowed before raising his arm up and swinging down at Naruto. Said sigh and vanished in a burst of speed while the fist smashed into the ground and he appeared beside the beast's face with his fist reared back, only to go sailing as a blur struck him from behind and sent him flying backwards in the air a few feet before stopping himself and rubs his back. "Ow man, that smarts," Naruto complained and shook the throbbing sensation off. I guess those tentacles aren't for show after all. He's not only bigger but his speed isn't even affected at the least. With that, Naruto flies at the transformed Killer Bee, who howled back and fires several globs of black ink with electricity arching around it, forcing Naruto to evade several of them and noticed the electricity. Oh man, I better not get hit by any of those. Another one sails towards him and Naruto fires an energy blast. When they make contact they explode on collision. Naruto suddenly appears above Hakibi's head with an energy ball in his hand and fires it. The hybrid sees it and swats it to the side, and Naruto uses the distraction to appear under its jaw and attempt to uppercut the beast in the jaw, but had to dodge another tentacle that attempts to smash him into the ground and appears once more while another one attempts to hit him. Naruto maneuvers over it with his hands raised over his head with the palms facing the target and one hand in front of the other with the fingers going in opposite directions. Masenko ha! he cried out while thrusting his arms forward, releasing a yellow beam of energy. Hakibi brings an arm up and blocks it with one hand and grunts from the strength behind it. Naruto narrows his eyes and pushes more energy into the attack, making it slightly bigger. B grunts as he tries to stay his ground but feels himself getting pushed back from the attack and is forced to use both palms in order to stand his ground. The young Saiyan once again adds more power behind it and the beam grows in width. Grrrrrrrr. B snorts in frustration as he felt himself getting pushed back even more. Wee. Using his newfound strength he pushes his arms upwards, releasing the attack into the air where it explodes into a flash of light before disappearing. Nice try little money, but it'll take more than that to knock down the great. He didn't get to finish his sentence because Naruto landed on his muzzle with a grin on his face. Here's light in your eyes, he called out. Naruto brought his hands close to the center of his face with the fingers spread toward his eyes. Solar flare. Suddenly a blinding white light flashes outwards and surrounds both Naruto and B. Yujito saw it spreading out and covers her face with her hands as the light shined brightly. When it dies down, B was clutching his eyes and howling in pain. My eyes. My eyes. He wailed out as he thrashed around with his tentacles smashing the ground and shaking the earth. Hi! Naruto descended from the air and delivers a bone-shattering axe kick that impacts with the beast's skull, putting him in a daze and stumbles. He then spins and hit him in the side of the jaw with kick and B ends up spitting out saliva. Naruto then vanished and appeared next to one of the thrashing tentacles and grabs it. Reversal roundhouse. He then starts to rise into the air, pulling on the large appendage and starts to lift B into the air. Naruto grit his teeth and flies up even harder with his opponent. B on the other hand gets his vision back and realizes that he's rising in the air. Yo 80, I didn't know you could fly, yo. This caused a tick mark to form on the hybrid's horned head. Baka, I can't fly. The Gaki is lifting us into the air. Hakibi roared. The transformed B snapped out of his stupor and realized that he was being lifted into the air by Naruto, who then stopped and his aura flared to life. He started to grunt slightly as he pulled back and started to spin the guy slowly around the air by his tentacle before the speed increased. As the pace increased, he ended up creating a twister around him for a while before swinging his opponent upward into the air, resulting in B flailing his arms and tentacle as he ascended into the air. Akemi, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. I'm going to throw up and then I'm gonna die, he cried out. Naruto then appeared over the flailing ninja. B looked up to see Naruto with his fist reared back and electricity arcing around his arm. Oh, this is gonna hurt like hell, B muttered. Naruto then swung forward and delivered a powerful punch on B's jaw, causing the entire area around them to shake violently while B went free, falling down to the unforgiving ground at high speeds. As he made contact, dust erupted from the ground, forming in a mushroom-like shape, and the entire area shook violently from the aftershock. Yujito was struggling to keep her footing as the earth shook underneath her feet and flailed her arms around frantically. For goodness sake, can this get any more violent? If this keep up, they're gonna split the island apart, she yelled out before tripping and falling on the ground face first. This action caused Nibi to laugh her ass off at the action. Shut up, it's not funny, she screamed mentally as she got up and rubbed her injured nose. As the dust settled down, Naruto descended downwards, landing on the ground softly while B was covered in rubble. Man, I hope that fall didn't kill him. Maybe I went too high when I carried him off, he pondered until the ground started to rumble. Naruto turned his head in the direction where the 20-foot wide and deep crater was, and B in his Baiju form rose up roaring at the sky. Ra! He bellowed before slamming his fists into the ground on the cracks. Do you think I'll let you get away with that, brat? I'm gonna stomp a hole in your head for this. Gra! He opened his mouth widely, which got the attention of the Saiyan. Black chakra started to form into a large sphere before compressing into a smaller shape. As Yujito got back up, she felt the large amount of chakra being created and her eyes widened in horror. No. Sensei, you're going too far, she whispered before looking around for cover. And the closest thing was made a mad dash for it and dived into it. Trench. Naruto watched as his foe was gathering chakra and curiosity. Naruto, don't let that attack hit you. The power in that move is of the charts. Don't get caught in its range. Goku screamed to his student, whose eyes widened as the hybrid reared its head back. Crap, I don't have enough time to get out of the range. He screamed as his foe shot his head forward. No choice. Naruto's golden aura flared to life as B fires a concentrated beam of energy which then engulfed the young Super Saiyan. The beam shot through the area before the beam widened, and then an explosion occurred, erupting outwards, and the whole island was shaking violently. Yujiro was curled up in the trench as the shaking rocked the island while a large cloud of dust rose in the air. Once it died down, the effect from the Imari, menacing ball, resulted in a wide and extremely deep trench stretching outwards in a straight line, leading from the field to the forest area, where a 40-foot wide and 20-foot deep crater formed with dust still rising from it. The blonde Kunoichi popped her head out of the trench she was behind, and her eyes widened from the results and stared at the dust cloud rising from the forest area. No. Naruto-kun. She trembled, fearing for the worst, while tears brimmed around her eyes, praying that he wasn't dead. Nibi remained silent before her vessel, who was trembling before her senses picked something up and her eyes widened. Kitten. Kitten. He's still alive. She shouted to her vessel, snapping Yujiro out of her stupor. He is? Where? She asked the two-tailed cat and looked around. In the dust cloud. He's alive and well, she assured the 14-year-old. Focus your eyesight there. Her slit pupils dilated as she focused on the sight and saw a shadow figure in the dust cloud. It then cleared and revealed Naruto surrounded by some type of golden energy dome with his arms crossed in a X formation. There didn't appear to be any damage aside from a few scratches and bruises, and aside from that his clothes were torn up. Half of his shirt was missing and he had several holes and rips in his pants, but other than that there was no other serious damage. He's alive. I'm gonna kick his ass for worrying me like that, she screamed mentally while Nibi chuckled. Meanwhile Naruto uncrossed his arms and let out a sigh of relief. Man, that was too close for comfort. It's a good thing I set this barrier up in the last second, because if I hadn't I'd be in real trouble, he commented as the barrier vanished. I'll say, I can't tell you how many times I've cut it close in life or death situations. The worst I've been through was narrowly escaping an exploding planet. Goku said to his protege. I think it's time to get a little payback. Let's see how he handles a Super Kamehameha. Naruto's aura flared to life before getting into the stance. Ki gathers around Naruto's palms, but the difference in this one is that it was light blue and generated more light. B on the other hand snorts as he saw Naruto in the air over the large crater. So the Gaki survived after all. That's good, otherwise Yujiro-chan would have turned me into a scratching post. Yeah. That was when he saw the blonde generating an odd light. Me. His aura rockets upwards as he added more energy into the attack before thrusting his hands forwards. Ha! He screamed out as he fired a powerful light blue beam of energy that was twice as large as a normal Kamehameha was released, emitting a glow around the area as it descended towards the transformed B. B saw the glowing blue light descend towards him. As he looked at the blue light in awe, his eyes widened when he realized that it was an attack and its size rivaled the form of the hybrids. Oh shit! Was all he could say before the blast engulfed him and exploded into a blue dome of energy that covered his entire form.